In this episode, we're talking about how to guarantee your kid ends up in a loving relationship. Let's go. We're out here trying to throat punch the youth mental health crisis. What does setting them up for loving relationships have to do with the youth mental health crisis? Well, youth that are in bad relationships set them up for just one bad relationship after another. In the worst case scenario, it's going to set them up for an abusive relationship. And we do not want that for our youth because it just introduces a whole slew of mental health problems when our children are in bad romantic relationships. So we want to figure out a way for them to have healthy, loving romantic relationships. This is how we're going to do it. So, are you ready for this? Treat your romantic partner how you want your child to be treated. Yes, it is that simple in kind of theory, not so simple in practice. What is that about? So there's this thing called internal working models. So our idea of what a romantic relationship is and what it should be is you typically based off of our parents' romantic relationship. So if your parents had a strong, loving romantic relationship, chances are that's what you envision romantic relationships to be, and you are more likely to get in those kind of romantic relationships and less likely to get into abusive relationships. More is caught than taught. I can give you a real life example of this. So I used to work with a client, and I would notice this pattern in her that she would do drugs with her boyfriend and then they would fight. And they would do drugs with their boyfriend and then fight. And then do drugs and fight. Over and over and over again. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I asked her, what was your parents' relationship like? And she's like, well, they would do drugs together and then they would fight. And then they'd do drugs together and then they would fight. And I was like, that's why your belief of what a romantic relationship is because that's what was modeled for you. So what I want you to do this Valentine's Day with your romantic partner is I want you to sit down and write out what kind of relationship do you want your child to have with their romantic relationship partner down the road? And whatever that looks like, you're going to write it all out, and then you're going to start treating your romantic partner just like that. For instance, my husband and me do not raise our voices at each other. First of all, it's because whenever someone raises their voice at me, I shut down. I'm like, nope, I cannot hear what you are saying. I don't have control over it. It's physiological. It's automatic. I have no control over it. So if anyone wants to have a conversation with me, their voice needs to say it the same as a neutral tone. And as soon as it raises, I'm out. No. So my husband has had to learn over time to not raise his voice. So we don't raise our voices because I shut down and we don't want to do that. We prioritize our relationship. We go on date nights, even if that means dropping the kids off at my parents' house, because romantic relationships are important. We say we love each other. We hug each other. We hold hands. We hug each other. All of those things. That's how I want my 3 kids to be treated in their romantic relationships. I want them to see that's what I want them to have. That's the kind of relationship I want them to have. That's the loving relationship I want them to have. And so therefore, it's up to me and my husband to model healthy relationships, because I can tell you the ripple effect of negative, abusive, romantic relationships are strong and intense. And I do not want them for any child. I want children to be in healthy, romantic, loving relationships. That's what I want for them. And so it's never too late. If you haven't modeled the greatest relationship, it is okay. Do not beat yourself up, because it's not going to do you or your child or their future spouse any good. Just sit down, write it out. How do you want them to be treated? And then start treating your romantic partners in that way. And if you need some assistance, you know you can always reach out to Dr. Dre, and I will be more than happy to help you have better relationships. So again, it's never too late to model loving relationships for your child. So set them down a path to in a way to introduce them and know that they are deserving of high quality, loving, romantic relationships. And by doing that, by having setting our children up to have these kind of relationships, and we're going to throat punch the youth mental health crisis.